So what advice could you give to women in advertising and marketing about, tooting their own horn?
Yeah.
Saying it with their chest about what they've done and just really being more vocal about the work that they've put in.
Absolutely. I think the first one, and I tell it to everybody, especially Black women that ask me about career, is do not let your job get in the way of your career.
Okay.
I think it is so easy, and I'm incredibly guilty of this. I think I told you this story when we first talked, is I was working at BET as an intern. I would get in early, I would stay late.
Right.
And I went in this one day, and this will also show people my age. It was a day where we were having R. Kelly on.
Okay.
Yeah, that should show people I'm that old. But we were having him come on the show, and somebody was like, hey, can someone raise their hand to pull all the clips from his videos, or kind of go through all his videos and tell us what they are, the timestamps, everything, so that we know what clips. And I was like, I'm about to be the hardest worker here.
Yes.
I get in 2 hours early. I was in that edit bay for maybe 12 hours, no breaks, going through every single video, every interview we had with him. Finally come out, the sun's down. This was like middle of summer. So
you put in some work.
I put in work, and I came downstairs and everyone was gone except for the head of the department. And I said, where is everyone? And she was like, oh my God, I didn't know you were still here. And I was like, what do you mean? I've been upstairs working.
Yes.
I came in super early to put this perfect project together for you. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just sent like one intern off to this executive dinner because I would have loved to have sent you, but I didn't know you were here.
What?
And she was like, and I sent this other person off to the Transformers premiere to cover it.
Yeah.
I know you're going to college for broadcast journalism. I would have sent you, but I didn't know. And that was really a moment that reminded me, like, I was so busy focusing on the job that I forgot to zoom out and think of my career.
Wow.
To, in a moment, say, I've done the job well. I've pulled the clips they want. Now I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to eat lunch with these people. I'm going to make conversation.
Wow.
I'm going to reintroduce myself, schedule informationals. I think even at the stage I am, being a VP, like I tell people all the time, I still schedule informationals with people. I still go with questions. I'm curious. I'm a voracious reader. So my go-to question in every single interview is like, what's a book that changed your life?
Oh, okay.
Or that you recommend. And it always gives me an excuse to follow up with that person at a later date. Because, sometimes it's hard to find those authentic follow-ups. But when you finish that book they love and you're like, hey, did this passage ever jump out to you when you were at this stage?
That is the major key.
Yes, it really is.
Yes.
I believe in that Truman quote that all leaders are readers, but not all readers, or all readers are leaders, but not all leaders are readers.
Are readers, right. Yeah. That's so good.
And I think now more than ever at this space and time, we get to see that reading and engaging with content is very important. But
it's very necessary.
Yes. And I think the other one I would tell, within that building of your brand, it's like, don't be afraid to share your expertise. Be loud about it.
Absolutely.
I worked with this incredible woman who once told me, she was like, go on LinkedIn and write. Share what's going on. Share what you did. Share the project.
Let the people know.
Because again, to that point of like my job getting in the way of my career, I really always thought the title, the company, my work will somehow permeate through the ether and reach the right person. When in reality, it took me going on my own LinkedIn and being like, here's a really cool thing I did. Yes. I'm super proud of myself.
And you should know.
And you all should know this. And by the way, here's 6 coming posts about how I did it, because I think a lot of our counterparts do not have any shame in being like, I'm an intern at XY at Goldman Sachs. Here's everything I know. I mean, the internet, social media is filled with people who are not nearly as qualified, nearly as hardworking, nearly as educated, but leading their expertise. I mean, think of how many people we see who are like, I'm a financial guru.
Yes.
I got myself out of debt. And you're like,
no.
Okay, Catherine, you had $2,000 of credit card debt.
A hot streak.
Like, what are we talking about?
You had a hot streak maybe with crypto. Like, it's no,
truly. Or they're like, master. Get my reading guide. And you're like, you read Court of Thorns and Roses.
No,
like, now
or the reading guide is the one that you downloaded and that you're doing a master resale for. So let's
so it's like, I think that's a piece of advice I'm constantly giving when folks are like, what should I know? And then truly don't be afraid to take crazy leaps and crazy chances.
I love it.
Like I said, when I started at a streaming network in 2019 that was focused on Black content, I was like, we've all lost our minds.
Yes.
we've truly lost the plot. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And the same with the role I'm in now. It's like working in fashion. I'm like, everything that needs to be said has been said. What are you doing?
What are we doing different?
But realizing, okay, there is something new and fresh, and I have expertise that has never been seen here.
Absolutely.
So yeah, those are my pieces.
Those are beautiful stories.
Thank you.
But when we also spoke, we talked about there was an underlying theme there to that story, and it was leaning into doing the most to get the least.
Oh yeah.
And as Black women,
we're so
and not just in our industry, right?
Yes,
it's
in
across
general.
the board, right? What are we told?
Oh yeah,
to work harder,
twice as hard to get half as far.
Facts.
Yeah.
So when we go down that line, and for anyone who might be tuning in today, what do you say to people who have that mindset of doing the most to get the least, or experiencing that?
Yeah.
How should they pivot? What's the solution?
Because it is real. It's not, I mean, I think that's the interesting thing that Black women experience is a lot of our peers talk about like perceived slights. And it's like, and when you zoom out, they're like, well, maybe it was in my head. Yeah. But for us, you really are like, oh no, I have shown up to client meetings with my hair braided and been told like, why don't you just wait right here real quick? Yeah. And you're like, oh, so I didn't make that up.
Right.
Okay.
Or your hair looks different today.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you sure you want to go meet with Macy's?
Right.
And you're like,
yeah.
Okay. But I think that's where I take it back to that Sula quote. You know, I think there's so much power in realizing I will never be white nor male. So I might as well be something else. And I think, again, it's that being unapologetically showing up as yourself. Because the crazy part is, and this is the scariest part, people either love it or they'll hate it.
Right.
They'll either celebrate it or they'll want to get rid of it. And to be quite honest, I have now reached a point in my professional journey. I would much rather know this is not something you want than to waste 9 months of my life trying to get you to like me when Barbara Corcoran has just told me run for the hills. Right. You know, it's that
this is not the place for me.
Yeah. And I think that is again, and you know, again, I'm a big old dorky reader. Like that's where I fall into finding stories that refute my own negative self-talk. I'm a huge believer in this idea because I am very guilty of it. I'm like, well, you know, if it's one bad day at work, I'm like, I've never come up with a good idea in my life. All right. And having that proof, like disproving myself. And if I can't find my own personal proof, I'll go look other places. I'll go look for those vision expanders. I'll look for somebody else. You know, I had, you know, I'll say my own embarrassing thing out loud, but like I had a company that I was super passionate about and I like chased this recruiter down to the point that they were like, please stop emailing me. Right. You are far too pushy. And I called my mom at my big age and I was like crying on the phone. I was like, I've embarrassed myself and these people are going to hate me. And taking it back to Bozeman, my mom goes, when Bozeman was a temp, she wrote on Spike Lee's script and he found it charming.
That's exactly what she did.
And I was kind of like, what does that have to do with me? And she goes, well, if that had been the right place for you, that person would have found your persistence to actually be exactly what they want on their team.
That's so good.
And she was like, so if they don't actually like you authentically, wanting answers, wanting to engage, wanting to share industry news that you're seeing that relates to their business, you don't want to be there.
You don't.
And I think that is the hardest part that we have as Black women is that we're like, I'm killing myself to get so little. Right. And it's like, but what if you just had the audacity to truly believe that you deserved everything and demanded that from the places until you got it?